Right. So another thing, and this is really important, and so this is like serious business now, right? So I am currently in dispute with YouTube. I've been in dispute with YouTube. I've already made a official legal claim, a legal challenge, serious one, in the post to YouTube in San Bruno in America with a very big parcel package. It actually ended up being a gold package, right? A big package, a legal contest over the way they're handling copyright and the copyright law on YouTube, which resulted in them changing the entire website and policy for processing copyright on videos globally, right? It wasn't a wrong or feeble legal challenge, right? Now, one of the other main points is on the fact of when you're using YouTube for a petition or as part of a legal case, which is holding or sharing or hosting evidence that has to be accessible by other parties, and a petition is a legal case to the government. It might be Lord Walney. It might be the House of Lords. It could be Michelle Donlan, the Secretary of State of Transport. It could be anyone, local councillor. Or it might be a legal case where someone's run out of disk drive storage and the barrister needs to show a video in court and he hasn't got any storage and they have to get up on the computer in the courtroom, and then it's on YouTube, right? Legal right access, right? When you run an account or videos that are of the classification that qualify for petitions or evidence in petitions or legal cases, are not standard YouTube channels or standard YouTube material. It's not there for the purposes of leisure and entertainment solely. It's not a business or sales. It comes under a different class and category. Now, on Facebook ads, if you're doing something, any material that goes through Facebook ads that you claim, you enter a claim and tick a box to declare it as political materials for political purposes, including petitions, you have to declare it is that classification of materials. Like when you send a letter, you have to tick the box. It's an official legal declaration. Is this a gift? Is this commercial goods? Is this documents, right? It doesn't mean nothing. It registers it, it identifies it, and it classifies it officially, acknowledging by your handwriting and signature, you are making a declaration and signing it, signing your name to state that that's the truth, so it can be classified into a tax band, of which there are different ones, and in different tax bands, different law, different legislation, different tax exemptions or fees apply, depending on which band you have declared it in, right? Now, when you run a Facebook ad, you also similarly make a declaration. If it is for political purposes, you declare it with the box that says political material, which they provide because it's a legal requirement for them to provide it, because it's a legal classification that exists, and it is not standard or normal materials. Now, what you sign and what you claim, you fill in and complete the disclaimer. It is a legal disclaimer because you have declared it as political materials, and they check it to make sure it is political materials, right? And you have to provide your ID and passport to show who you are, which I have had to pay £65 for a passport, or £75, right? Now, what does a disclaimer do? It is a statement that denies something, especially responsibility, right? The novel carries a disclaimer about the characters bearing no relation to living persons, or whatever it is, right? If there is any issues with the advert, if there is any problem with it, and if anyone wants to make a legal argument, right, or whatever, Facebook ads you are disclaiming liability away from them. Usually they are responsible and liable for materials that is advertised. If there's a problem with something, then they're responsible, partly responsible. If it's a sexual image or a graphic image or offensive and they put it on there, then they are jointly responsible. It's partly their fault. If you put if a graphic image of a child abuse goes up and they publish it, they could get into trouble, right? As well as you. Now, when you're doing political materials, right, you're exempt from the law. You can't be prosecuted because you're protected from being prosecuted, right? Therefore, you're not liable. And Facebook aren't responsible. They don't have responsibility because they're not governed. It's unregulated. Petitioning and political materials are unregulated. That's why you fill the disclaimer in. You are removing any liability of Facebook. They are no longer responsible, that platform, for your ad. So if anyone rings into Facebook to complain about it, they're not liable or responsible, right? They're removing liability. Now, why would they do that? Because normally they are liable. Political materials aren't regulated. There's no legal requirement to, right? Now, this is the same with music in campaign songs. The Copyright and Licensing Agency have published on their website all of the things they are responsible for and also the things they're not responsible for, that they don't regulate. They're not, the Copyright Licensing Agency are not responsible and don't regulate political materials. Why? Because political materials are exempt. They're not regulated. There's no requirement for the CLA to regulate them. So they don't need to get involved. They usually get involved with all copywriting. They are responsible for all the copywriting, but not in things that they don't regulate. How is it possible that they don't regulate it? Because it's not regulated. It's exempt from regulation. There are no regulations for it. That's why they're not responsible for it, right? In America particularly, music, political campaign songs created or any used for a political campaign do not need copywriting permissions. Why? Because it's a political purpose and reason. The senators and governors and president and parties don't need permission from the copyright holders. They're not subject to the law and regulations in copyright. And neither is any member of the public if they want to have a song for a petition. Why? Because you can't be prosecuted for petitioning. It is illegal to be prosecuted or held to any legal commitments. Right? This is the point. Now, what's interesting is that Facebook do provide a disclaimer, disclaiming liability. The problem that I've been arguing with YouTube is that they haven't offered a disclaimer to disclaim their own liability, right? Because, YouTube don't want to get prosecuted themselves or be liable, but they are responsible for copywriting and things like that. When people upload videos, YouTube will get into trouble from Warner Brothers or Universal Studios or whatever. But when I'm uploading something for a political campaign as evidence, as a campaign song, to host videos for the petition, we're exempt because of the right to petition grants that you cannot be prosecuted for doing it or held to any commitments, legal commitments, including policies. That's why Facebook ads provide a disclaimer. There is no legal commitment to their policy. That's why you're disclaimed from it, right? Now, this is very interesting when we come to 38 Degrees. It's a petition site. The bread and butter is petitions to the government, or McDonald's, which is not a petition to the government. Everything they're doing is people's petitions. Although 38 Degrees themselves usually aren't the ones doing the petitions, they are merely providing a service and facilitating other people's petitions. Occasionally they will pick and choose petitions to assist, but they did not create any of the petitions, and usually their staff don't sign any. So they are merely assisting with petitions. Yet, lo and behold, they have an entire policy. Yes, data protection, because in their building in London and on their computer systems, they don't want to be leaking the data out everywhere. But when you create a petition, you have the sole rights over the data to it. You are the named creator and writer and signature collector. The legal obligations and rights under the name of the person who created it. How can the data rights be owned by 38 Degrees when they merely are facilitating and assisting you? They did not write or create the petition. They are not the writer of the book, the screenplay writer of the film. They didn't create it. The person's name that is required on the petition is the sole primary holder of all rights over that petition, and there is no legal right to take that right away. The right to petition, all prosecutions and legal commitments are illegal. You are having a legal policy that you are trying to hold the petition creator to by joining the website. Oh, we'll provide you with a petition site if you sign this. We'll hold you to commitment of this policy. How can they? They can't. That's the point. But the worst thing is, when you are on Facebook or YouTube, because it's a political petition, you cannot be held to the platforms policies, liabilities. When you are doing a petition on the platform, this is why Facebook provide a disclaimer. You are being disclaimed from any policy. You are being disclaimed from liability. You are not a liability to Facebook ads. They are no longer responsible, right? Now, on 38 Degrees, the same applies. It's for petitioning. You don't have any liability of 38 Degrees. There's no liability, which means if the petition holder, who is the sole right holder, the named creator on the petition, collecting signatures, they've got a right to the data. If that petition creator if any data were to get leaked, it's not the liability of 38 Degrees. It's not 38 Degrees as liability if that person if anything did happen to that data. To put it this way, it's none of 38 Degrees business what the petition creator does with the data is up to them. It's not the legal concern or liability of 38 Degrees to what the petition creator does with their petition and the data that is on it. That's the point. Now, 38 Degrees as an organisation that needs to manage data and make sure it doesn't get leaked out from them, they're liable. They might have a company policy they've got to operate by, but they can't withhold the petition creator's data from them, from him or her, from the petition creator or the authority that it is addressed to, of which it needs to be on. And that's a legal requirement for it to be on there. It's a legal requirement. It has to have it on there, on the sheets, and the sheets have to be labelled and named so we know what they belong to. You cannot generate a petition with part of the data on it, because it is not a valid document. It's even worse than it being email addresses that have been given that aren't correct, because the reasons why the data has to be on there is so they can be checked to see if they're legitimate or not, which actually is the responsibility of the council authority. It's their responsibility. That's why we pay our taxes for the local petitions committee, our service, or the government department, that they check it. And actually, you'll find that in that petitions law, I'm quite certain, although on this fact, I'm not 100% sure at this time, that's the only fact I'm not 100% sure on, but I'm quite certain that if a petition signature is not valid, it's simply void. It simply is null, that signature. Anyone's signature that is not valid is simply null, right? It doesn't count. The ones that are valid do count. Therefore, the rest of the petition is valid, the signatures that are valid and count, as is the rest of the evidence and the main body of the work and draft of it. In fact, all of the petition that is legitimate. The reason why you have to hand it in is so they can look at it. The reason why you get a committee meeting from the council is so the evidence gets heard and judged, decided upon, like in a court. All evidence in a court is neither right or wrong. It's a photograph of a bench. If you are trying to prove the bench is broken and need fixing, they look at it and they decide whether it's broken or not and whether it needs fixing when you hand it in. That is the point. They look at the signatures and check whether they're valid or not. It's actually not the responsibility or liability of 38 Degrees to actually take petitions or evidence from people and pull it down or withhold it, because it's actually the government authority's job to check it all and look at it, not 38 Degrees. They merely are a facilitator. And actually, if the petition creator was actually given their email data, which is their data, they are the named person who's running the petition, then they would be able to check it. But they're not actually in a position to check it when 38 Degrees are withholding it from them. And I think one of the real reasons they're withholding it from them is not truly data protection. It's a business. 38 Degrees is a business, what people give money to, and they like to use that money as they want. And if people had their email lists from their petitions, they would be donating a lot less money to 38 Degrees, because they could re-ask people to sign other petitions, right? And that's not a good business model for 38 Degrees. That's not my problem, though. It's not a good business model for Change.org. But it's not a good business model when your business model is not running by the rules, not running by the law and legislation. That's worse. Maybe you shouldn't have started a petition site if you were doing it to make money. If you wanted to run a petition site to help people out with petitioning, you shouldn't have really conjured up one that was a money-making machine or for profit, because that's not a good business model when there are certain legal requirements and obligations. And one of those is that the data is collected by and primarily in possession of the named petition organizer and runner, the person who's created it. They have a legal right to that data. You don't protect the petitioner from that. You don't protect the data from the person who created the petition. That's ludicrous. I really don't know what education these people have got. I don't know what universities they've been to. I don't know what schools they've been to. I don't know what lawyers they've been speaking to. I don't know what government departments they've been meeting with. I'm pretty sure it probably goes something like, Jonathan Harty, campaign manager, isn't really that clever, and he kind of likes petitioning and he's a people's person, and he hangs around with Lib Dems and, Keir Starmer and other ministers in London in the big smog, who it's all important, and they have some little drinks together and tea parties and have some conversations in rooms, and oh yes, you should do it like this, and they've been given certain advices and things like that, but it's been the wrong advice. It's been incorrect guidance. It's actually criminal. Possibly Vince Cable, known to be receiving money from Just Stop Oil in Labour. Is it Vince Cable who's been advising? But yet we've got Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, who's meant to be a human rights solicitor, one who ran the CPS when they were doing illegal road signage all around England and planning corruption. And there happens to be a company involved in it called Keir, who has all the contracts for local councils around England for roads and highways. Well, a man who were accusing of being criminal in the CPS, of gross negligence. This is the problem. This is the problem. And unfortunately, 38 Degrees think that, they're having a ball of a time. We're helping out people petitioning. We're flying planes over Anton Deck. We're having loads of fun. We're killing it. Look at all these petitions we're running. We are British petitioning. Yes, you're also running a criminal platform and withholding emails from people that they have a legal requirement to have, and creating and generating documents that are incomplete, that don't comply with the legislation. This is it. They don't really know what they're doing properly. This is the problem. And there's also a communication problem, because people don't want to face up to the consequences. When people like me pull them on it, when people like me complain about it and want something done about it, they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to sort it out. But yet it is the legal fact. I lie not. I have not been able to check my emails or my petitions because I have not been given the opportunity to do that. So how was it possible to check them? So, there is disclaimer. I'm not liable to 38 Degrees aren't liable on data protection for me. I have the right to that data. I have the right to the data on my petition, right? And what I do with that data, that's none of 38 Degrees business. They're not liable for what I do with the data because I have a disclaimer. It's a political endeavour, a political petition. It's not regulated. Just like Facebook ads is not liable to any political advert that is run on the platform. As long as it's being verified as such, right? This is it. And even if I were to, I can reuse those emails if I want. Now, if the government, if I were to sell those emails to a used car salesman or a Hoover shop or something, if the government wanted to speak to me about that and do something about it, I would say, well, I'll let it try, but I can't be prosecuted for running and doing petitions, But then again, they might say, well, yeah, I know, but you disclosed the emails. Well, fine me. It's a fine. Look up data protection breach. What happens? You get fined. That's it. It's like a parking ticket. Oh, give you a parking ticket. But people, it's... Oh, data protection. Yeah, it's a fine. If you breach data protection, it's a fine. I'm not liable to 38 Degrees. I can do... It's not 38 Degrees as business what I do with those emails, but 38 Degrees seem to be making a business out of those emails. They seem to be making a business out of them, all right, because people are throwing money at them and they're emailing people like Billio to support petitions that they pick and choose they'll support. Not mine, though. They can pick and choose the lucky lottery ticket winners. The lucky lottery ticket winners, right? Unlike Change.org, where anyone can sponsor any petition, depending on how much money you throw at it. But then again, Change.org is global, worldwide. It's not really any good because 38 Degrees is all English people. So, if you could throw, 100 quid at 38 Degrees, you're going to get a lot of signatures back from legitimate English people than what you are going to on Change.org, And the platform is meant to be more stable, although apparently it turns out it's not that stable now. There are issues. We need to get these problems sorted out. This is why YouTube is upgrading the entire platform, or part of the reason, not all of the reason. YouTube are having to make lots of changes in the way that they do copywriting and all manner of things, And when you think that they're not running the platform right, you have to call them out on it, And I think there are legitimate reasons. 38 Degrees, it's not financially viable for 38 Degrees to give you the emails. Yeah, you've got a right to them. They claim it's data protection. They say that, but it's partly true, but it's more of a moaning, complaining excuse because they'll be out of profit. They will severely drop their donation revenue, And the government don't really want 38 Degrees to be a site where people can sponsor specific petitions and make them a success, because then there's no control over it. When 38 Degrees are picking and choosing, it's down to a few people, and there's someone, there is some, whether it's Vince Cable, whether it's, Jonathan Hartley, I don't know who it is, but something happened at 38 Degrees shortly after something happened at 38 Degrees shortly after one of their staff members was arrested for doing drugs of some kind, cocaine or something. He was the maverick, the guy with the brilliant ideas, the guy who thought of it all, apparently, and he was doing all these, wacky petitioning and everything. And then there was loads of adverts in the London newspapers about it. And then suddenly he got busted, and then it all got tightened up. And the government have tightened up. The government have said they don't even have to claim they don't even have to debate petitions, even if you get 100,000 signatures, which if you spend loads of money on it and time, what's the point in doing it? They're blocking out petitions that they don't have the right to block out. They're claiming they can't do anything about things like 15-minute cities when they can, because you can change the legislation over the experimental roads legislation, experimental highways and experimental roads legislation, so the council actually can't do trials on things, without getting the public permission first. There are lots of legislative changes you can make to prevent local councils from doing 15-minute cities by petitioning central government, because the local council doesn't make the law on what they can and can't create. The government does. So, I am sick and tired of the Petitions Committee coming up with absolute tosh. Excuse after excuse. It's like trying to squeeze water out of a stone. They don't like democracy. Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, they hate democracy. They don't want a democracy. They don't really want it. They want a McDonald's franchise party. They want everyone to go and eat there, buy the burgers, get them into government, tick a box, then that's it. Let us take care of the rest of it. That's it now. Voting's over. Well, let the McDonald's franchise take care of it. That's it. Rees-Mogg, there's promise, there's optimism with Mogg. Now he's saying, I'm a democratic person. I'm employed by my constituents to represent them. I'm democratic. Well, we'll see if he's democratic or not, because these Tory parties, the Conservatives have already been cracked down the middle. Half of them, a third of them have already broken off into Tice's party, and then it's split in half again, between Priti Patel and who else. And now we've got Rees-Mogg, professing that he's a Democrat. They've got issues. They don't believe in a democratic government. They don't want people to have power to get petitions in and make them debate things that they don't really want to debate. They don't want to put things through government that they don't want to put through government. Most of the politicians are not really there to represent the people, and this is what Neil Oliver is talking about on the national news. This is what Richard Vobes is talking about. This is what Russell Brand is talking about. This is what Big Brother Watch is talking about. This is what Chris Packham is talking about. And now many of even Fox News is saying that no one trusts the American government or politicians. The whole thing is starting to crumble away, mainly because the laws that they're putting in place and making, they're now trying to take them away or just completely blatantly deny the fact of them. Many people don't really understand the law. Gail Bradbrook and Extinction Rebellion have failed miserably in law and rights. They're the reason why we're having protesting rights threatened to be taken away. Half of this new legislation cannot even be enacted, yet the ministers are just, pretending that they can enact it. Something needs to happen. 38 Degrees and Change.org have not been helping anyone really except themselves. They've been having a ball of a time running a platform, a ball of a job. They've been having a pie of a time, flying planes over Anton Deck. So like some sort of Indiana Jones action film for them. We're at home on holiday. I got run up by a guy from 38 Degrees. So, by the way, all your petitions are illegitimate. Your signatures aren't valid or whatever. Well, how am I supposed to know? I can't check them. Oh, by the way, I'm on holiday and I won't be back for a while. I'm just chilling out on holiday. Oh, good for you. Good for you. Having a ball of a time. This is it with these people. They create it's almost like a television show or something. Oh, well, it's all going good for us, you know. Well, what about me? You know, I can't even, it's my data. I'm the one who's collecting it. I created it, but apparently I have no rights of my data. How are they all? We're protecting you from your data. Don't you worry, your data is protected from you. Yeah, I know. You protecting my data from me? You gotta be taking the piss.